Yeah, that is the leather jacket. Alright, I guess we're done. What was the highlight for you and why is it Puzzle Boy? And the highlight for me was looking up when I was looking up after I finished Puzzle Boy off stream, I was looking up the solutions because I was curious if what I did for one of them was actually the easiest thing or if I overcomplicated it, which I didn't. I didn't overcomplicate it, it was just hard. And I saw a bunch of people complaining about Puzzle Boy. That was my favorite part of the game, was reading people on Reddit complaining about Puzzle Boy. They were like, how did anyone, someone was literally like, how did anyone ever even finish this to make the guide in the first place? Not only was everyone using the guide, they didn't understand how someone made the guide by doing it legitimately. And then someone was like, actually I finished it in only 5 hours. I started feeling a lot better about my 1 hour or however long I spent with that. Make your own Puzzle Boy levels. Yeah, the highlight for me, I guess, was like the very beginning, you know, the atmosphere at the very beginning at the hospital and the early cutscenes and stuff, and like the world falling apart when you're watching from the roof of the hospital. And then like, just in general, kind of getting to the point in like, at like the 20-hour mark, around like Matador and a little bit after that and stuff like that, getting to the point where I was very familiar with the systems, you know. Just yeah, like learning how to be the master of the gameplay. But then there was like another 80 hours of gameplay after that that kind of felt like mostly autopilot mode, you know? Like the tactics and the strategy kind of stopped being interesting after like the 20-hour mark, and then there was like another 80 hours, which like a lot of cool things happened there in terms of like character interactions and whatnot and etc. But like without the strategy being interesting, like without the combat really being interesting past that point, it kind of fell off for me. And then also, by the way, thank you Pimp, for the gifts. Really appreciate that. Did not expect gift subs upon finishing this playthrough. Part of me expects gift subs when I finish a Majora's Mask playthrough with a new world record, but not not when I finish casual SMT playthrough. So yeah, thank you. But yeah, it also kind of got worse toward the end for me because, you know, early on there was still a lot of mystery to the world, and I was excited to see where it would go, and I wasn't sure what was gonna happen with like the Nihilo squad and whatever. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. I was excited about that, and then, but then at some point, that main like driving force behind the plot and behind like your main character's goals in the game or in the story, that kind of goes away, and it slowly becomes all about like everyone trying to enact their reasons. And I kind of felt like the reasons were not that interesting and not that like well motivated for the characters. There's just not enough time spent on those characters to like make that work, I feel like, for me. And if it was interesting on a purely like philosophical level what they were saying, then that would be one thing, but it kind of just was juvenile. You know, it was very simplistic philosophies that they were taking on there. And so that wasn't that interesting either. So like, yeah. And also, I really wish it had been more open-ended, like, or I guess less linear toward the end. Because like, you could imagine a version of this game where once it starts becoming about the different reasons, you could do things in different orders, right? You could go chase Isamu to the Amala temple before you go to Chiaki at the tower and all that. But I can understand, like, it just felt very awkward from a signaling perspective, like the way that they were signaling, the way that the designers signaled where I was supposed to go next, it always felt very awkward. Like, oh, okay, I just came here to get his find out about his reason. Now I'm supposed to go to some other random place to find out about his other reason. And now that I've done that, it just felt like a bunch of very artificial, like, blockers were always being cleared. It was just one at a time, like an artificial blocker gets cleared because I did this story part over here. And now I cleared this dungeon, and so now another artificial blocker has been removed over here, and now I can go to this other place and make another story thing happen. It all felt very artificial and weird, and it would have been nicer if it was open-ended, but because this game has to be a JRPG, like, it has to have levels, and the levels have to matter a lot. So it would be kind of poorly balanced if you could do things in whatever order, I guess. But yeah, my ideal version of this game would be more like Dark Souls, where a lot of things are more open-ended. You can do things in different orders, which would have worked well with this story, again. It would have worked well if you could do things in different orders in a lot of cases. And it would be less about levels. Like, maybe there could still be levels, but like, it would be more about, like, you have to find an item here that you have to use to get into this area, or like think about it in Dark Souls, like, you're not hard blocked from going into areas, but you're pretty hard blocked. You're not 100% blocked from going into the catacombs at the beginning, or going into New Londo ruins at the beginning, but like, you need to figure out a big thing, or like get a big upgrade or item or something to get into that area and progress effectively. And I think kind of soft blockers like that could have done a lot of good for this game, like the second half of the game, where it feels like it could have been more open-ended. What else can I say about this game? That was a lot of criticisms, but yeah, I guess the things that were good about it. Yeah, well, you can get a transient curse right at the beginning and figure it out. I started a New Game Plus just to see if anything was different, but now I stopped and I'm talking about my playthrough. How's it going, Don? But yeah, things that were good about this game, like I said, the tactics type of stuff, and like how to build your party effectively. Most of that, how to build your party effectively and how to strategize for fights, most of that was kind of starting to get old around the 30-hour mark. But that's really good for a JRPG. To keep me interested in the strategy for 30 hours, that's like crazy for a JRPG. Usually I boot up a JRPG and I instantly know everything that I need to do in the combat, and I never have to use an item, and I hardly have to use abilities even. I can just attack most of the time because it's a JRPG and it's supposed to be easy, and you just go through the combat and it's a grind. You just go through and hit the attack button a bunch. This was not like that at all. It's way more strategically interesting than most JRPGs, and the fusion system works really well, and the press turn system is great. I already talked about that a bunch as I was playing through it, but yeah, I really enjoyed the press turn system, really enjoyed the demon fusion system, even though it's kind of out of your control to some degree, the demon fusion and all that. And I like that there's a bunch of just little weird things in the systems, like talking to demons is really complicated in weird ways that you can't really fully understand. I don't exactly love how they did all of that, but yeah, and then like demon fusion, you can't really strategize about which demons you're trying to make, or like, there's a lot that's kind of out of your control unless you just know all the different combinations, which would be incredibly autistic and not realistic for a first playthrough. But yeah, there's lots of random little things that can happen. There's like, demons will talk to you at the beginning of a fight or during their turn or whatever and say different things. You can like talk to demons and do a lot of different things. You know, there's like the nag ability, and there's the brainwash ability, and there's the seduce ability, which has gender stuff that matters. Like, figuring out all of that stuff and seeing all of those things for the first time, which I'm kind of including that in like the first 30 hours that I was talking about, that was enjoyable to me. And then like, in general, throughout the game, there were lots of surprising interactions with characters, and surprising interactions with like the dungeon mechanics. the puzzle design. That's kind of what I was starting to say. The dungeons had kind of real puzzles. You know, the puzzles were more interesting than you would expect in a JRPG, and I liked that for sure. Sometimes it was just, you know, you get teleported to a random spot, which I guess is probably better than just boring regular Final Fantasy corridors, but sometimes it was actually interesting puzzles, and I feel like they did a good job for the most part of making the types of puzzles where if you're on autopilot, you're not going to have trouble getting through it in a reasonable amount of time, but if you anticipate the puzzle and see what's happening and clue into it really quickly, you feel rewarded for it by not having to waste quite as much time or something. So I often felt like I was cluing in early to the puzzles and doing a good job of, yeah, I felt rewarded for doing that, which is good. Yeah, like it's as an example, the moving blocks puzzle in the first section of the tower at the end of the game, like there's like three blocks that you have to get out of the way, and you have to move them in a particular order. You have to use the first block. You have to move one block to get it into place so that you can move the other block into place and then cross over the original block. And then once you have both of those in place, then you can use the third block to get back around to the thing. But then you have to move them all back again to get back to where you actually need to go, or something like that. It's like a puzzle with only 3 moving parts, right? But it's actually it's because it only has 3 moving parts, it can't be that complicated it can't be that hard to brute force, right? If someone is not interested in puzzle solving, which I assume a lot of JRPG players aren't really consciously thinking about the puzzles as much as I am, as someone who likes puzzle games, it's not going to be that hard to brute force, but it's also very interesting. It gives you a lot to think about if you are interested in the puzzles, and it's very hard to make puzzles like that. It's easy to make puzzles with more going on that are interesting, but with only three elements, that's a little trickier to design something like that. So that was impressive to me, and I feel like they did that throughout the game a decent amount. And yeah, the dungeons had a good variety of like mechanics, traversal mechanics and stuff. That was cool. On a lot of levels, this was way better than any other JRPG I've played. I think I would have enjoyed the game more probably overall on normal mode, just because it would have lasted fewer hours. The early game I probably enjoyed more due to playing on hard mode, but like that forced me to figure out everything super early on about the Magatamas, how to use Magatamas, how to build your party. You know, it held me to a very high standard from like the Matador fight onward. So I kind of just had to figure everything out, and then once I'd figured everything out, it kind of felt like the game was over on a strategic level. So yeah, normal mode I probably would have cruised a little bit more, which I would have enjoyed that a little bit less. I like being challenged, but I also would have had less random bullshit deaths, so that's less wasted time, and I would have had less time overall in the playthrough, and that would have been nice. So yeah, I wanted to try hard just because I always try hard, and I like a challenge, and I wanted to see if it was as bullshit as people made it out to be, which it wasn't quite as bullshit, but yeah. It was not ideal, I would say, for me. Yeah, the quote-unquote puzzle for Soul Return was probably my least favorite thing in the entire game. Pretty baffling. How... yeah. That was a lot of time. That was a lot of time spent on that. I bet talking to demons makes more sense in Japanese. I don't think so, man. I really don't. They just, I mean, there are some demons, at least, maybe all of them, but at least some of them where they don't want either answer consistently. They'll like a certain type of demon a certain species will ask you a question, and sometimes they'll want one answer and sometimes they'll want the other. And what the fuck? It's just stupid. yeah, it's just stupid. But that's part of what made the game surprising and interesting. So I'm not really complaining about that. When they ask a question, their choice is already decided no matter what you say. Really? I felt pretty confident that there were patterns of which ones will make them content, and it's just a very rare exception that they Okay, so my alignment is being affected by my answer maybe, but they're already decided before I answer. That particular one is already decided. But yeah, I think the... Yeah, I mean, I hate unnecessary DLC. I hate... It seems like a lot of people, when they play games, they just want more, you know, they want more content. And maybe that's like the poverty mindset from like when you're a kid. You ran out of games to play and your parents wouldn't buy you anymore. So you just want more content all the time. You're just defaulting to wanting more content all the time. But like, as an adult with money, like, and also if you don't have money, there's always other solutions for getting games. But yeah, from my perspective at least, this game was already way too big. I have no desire to go into the labyrinth, even if I thought that was going to be the best ending, and I don't think it's going to be the best ending. I like the ending I got. I feel like that should be the canon ending. Yeah, so I'm not... And it's, by the way, it's not just that. It's not just the extra content that I don't like that makes me think the original version of the game was better, the Japanese only version. It's also... Why are you getting ads right now? Did I change it so it's mid-roll instead of pre-roll? Can't remember. I was thinking about changing it, but I don't remember ever doing that. But Twitch has been fucking up. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, it's not just the extra content that makes me think, that makes me wish I had played I could have played the original Japanese version. It's also the difficulty thing, because apparently, like what I was just saying was that normal mode of this would have been too easy for my preference, but hard mode was too hard in certain particular ways, especially the money thing. And the original version only had one difficulty level, which is based, first of all, and it's between normal and hard mode of this version. It's like exactly what I want. I mean, it probably would have been a little on the easy side for me, but like, I wouldn't have been faced with this choice where there was bad things about both options, you know, of normal versus hard in this version. I remember there was something else in the changelog that I was thinking was probably better in the original as well, but yeah, I just hate I hate remakes, man. Even remakes that came out 1 year after the original game. They're just somehow always bad. If I want True Demon ending, I would have gotten demolished with my current team? Really? I guess I might watch the other endings. You guys want to watch the other endings right now on stream?